Hi, we are here at TM Forum, Digital Transformation World 2018, and I have the pleasure of being joined by Manel Benazet. How are you, Manel?
Fine. It's a pleasure to be in such a sunny day today.
Isn't it beautiful? We're in France, in the beautiful city of Nice. We've got some sun, which is great, and a very exciting event here at TM Forum, Digital Transformation World 2018. For folk who don't perhaps know you, could you maybe just briefly introduce yourself and your role within Ericsson, please?
Okay. Since February, I'm heading the solution area BSS. And that's a challenge, but it's a pleasure to be here. I have been working in Ericsson before that inside the solution area, but leading R&D. And now is the moment also to take the responsibility of the whole solution area BSS, and I am more than pleasure. And it's a big challenge, but at the same time, it's something that we need to do in Ericsson, and I feel proud of being
It's an exciting time, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
We've seen some very big disruptions in I guess, on a global scale in all industries, and telco's no different to that, certainly not immune to it. In online retail and cloud services and video streaming and you name it, we've seen a consumer-driven disruption in many ways. The customers are the biggest disruption to providers, and telcos are the same. When we think about digital transformation, though, maybe just give us some insight into kind of, in a telco world, what does digital transformation mean? Well, a lot of people think of it as just purely a technology thing, but is it fair to say it's a whole of organization shift?
Yeah, for sure. This is about the journey, customer journey changing radically. If we think about our children, for example, they are now calling us and say, can you call the call center? They are not used to use that. They are used to use a single interaction, a zero-touch interaction. They are willing to use the apps. This is not the rest of the people is not adopting so fast that they are adopting, but at the same time, this is a big change that we will need to face, the operators need to face. They cannot sustain the cost of the call center and all this human interaction and shops and all that they produce in their balances. That is something that need to change, radically need to change. They need to change the model, and we are here to help them. This is what BSS can help.
Well, one of the big things I've seen this week, and particularly here on the pavilion with Ericsson Digital, is the transformation in business support systems, or what we call BSS. Give us some insight into kind of, the big shifts and the big changes that are coming about with what the consumers are asking for, and how you're meeting that now from Ericsson to your operators and your telco partners with regard to business support systems. Where are the big changes? What's taking place?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the BSS, I think Ericsson decided to create this new suite of revenue manager, and that there's 3 or 4 pillars that are relevant for that, and I think they are very connected with this digital transformation. The first one is to have all the information stored in a single database, in a single place where you have what we call that a common information layer, because that will be relevant. And this information needs to be every interaction that you have with the customer, using the system, using the channels, you need to store it, because based on that you will need to take decisions. If you have the traditional approach of having different systems with different storage, this is quite difficult to go for that. The second one is everything real time. We cannot have systems that are not real time, and then the way that we define this solution from scratch, new architecture building, that is not easy, and it's a big investment. As Ericsson, we are doing a big investment in order to do that. This is to create everything in real time. It's not a system where parts are real time or other parts are just a batch, traditional batch, like the billing in some of our competitors. They continue to have billing that is batch, it's not real time. And the third point that is relevant, then common information layer, real time, and the third point is the front end. Because there is where the customer experience needs to be built. And I think this is a big change. If you have the information real time, then you need to have a front end that cannot treat every customer as a traditional flow that you define for every customer. And it's about, because you have all this information in real time, it's about the environment, the situation that the customer is facing. You have all the data to decide how are you going to create a new experience. About customer delivery experience platform. That is a big change. That is the front end, the third relevant part that we are building in order to.
We've seen this massive shift to what is generally referred to as a celebrity experience for a customer now, and I guess, as we said earlier on, telcos are not immune to this now. They have to be nimble, they have to be agile, and they certainly have to be able to get the insights into it and leverage machine learning, machine intelligence, artificial intelligence, etc. But you've got to have those foundational business support systems in place to be able to do that. And I guess what you're referring to before is almost a single source of truth, isn't it? Now, In the Consumer Labs report, there was a key phrase that jumped out, and you touched on it there. I'd like to come back to it, and that's zero touch. Now, it's a phrase we've heard quite a bit about, but people may not fully understand what that actually means. Maybe just give us an outline of what you see from Ericsson's point of view and what you're seeing with your telco operators and clients. What zero touch means to telcos.
But this is about this experience, customer experience. We need to build these experiences, and in order to build these experiences, as I was mentioning before, this real-time data that you have is what you need to drive the experience of the customer. If not, you treat every customer as in the same flow, and then he will try to do that, then he will not be successful, then will call again, and then the number of interactions, as we were showing, that the customer need to do with a company, the service provider, in order to solve the problem, increased by 2-3 interactions. And that is zero touch is how I can interact with my company and feel that my company knows what I am going to do before I start the call, or even they are calling me proactively to create this experience in a different way, because they have the data and they know what I am feeling or how I am feeling now and what is my need.
There was an interesting thing that also came out of the Consumer Labs report. One of the findings was that consumers don't actually want to churn. They do it through necessity because they can't get what they want from their current provider. One of the things I really gleaned from the report was that Ericsson's now been able to address that issue for their clients and partners, and that you've been able to solve the problem of forcing customers to churn to find what they want elsewhere by almost doing self-service with that zero-touch piece. Now, I'm really keen to get some insights based on what you've seen, because you've got a unique position in the world and you've got a global view of what's happening. Who are the leaders in this space? Who's already taken the steps to get to an innovative position? Who are the front runners in this space of digital transformation across the whole organization, not just technology, in the telco space?
Yeah, in the telco space, I can mention, and I think I need to mention some of the customers that we have, and we are working with them, because we start to be successful with them to create this differentiated approach. No? And I think the first one that I will mention is Intel, that was with us yesterday. Right. And I think Intel has done. They understand very well what was this digital transformation. They started with us 2 years ago, and they don't have the first fruits. Right. They failed twice before starting with us, and I think this is something that we need to be very proud, because we were the third one that they were trying to do this digital transformation, and we are the first one that delivered something, and now we need to finish the project. But the first deliveries are there, and they are very happy. They were with us. They are recognizing our role and their role as well, working together in this digital transformation. That is something that is key. The trust that you have with the customer and between the customer, between the service provider and the provider, in this case Ericsson, to run these journeys. The second one that I will also I think is important to mention is Beyond, no? The one that where we are installing and deploying for the first time Revenue Manager Suite. Beyond is tremendous. The way that they are thinking on the future, having a vision on how the customer will interact in 5 years with the company is differentiated when you compare with other players. And I think there are other players that they are doing by themselves. They are not looking. They are looking more to buy the pieces and how to use the data, like Telefonica, for example. But this is a different approach. They are doing by themselves, and they look pieces to build their understanding. They are more a best of breed approach on the way that they are running that. But I think these are three names that I remember now and kind of.
Fantastic. Yeah. I had the opportunity to sit down yesterday with the head of digital transformation for Intel, and what he outlined was exactly what you're talking about there, that these organizations have had many attempts, not necessarily a full failure, but they just realized they couldn't do it themselves. It wasn't their core business to transform them. They're not in the business of digital transformation per se, whereas you are. And the key thing that came out of the conversation with him was that they realized they needed a partner, and the right partner. And once they'd made the move to bring Ericsson into the family, that transformation started to move very quickly, and it was whole of business. Before we wrap up, I'd love to get some insights on, I guess, the strategic directions going forward. What should telcos be thinking about when they look at their organization internally, and then where the customers are coming from? What kind of strategic thinking should they be engaging in internally, and how do they start the conversation with Ericsson around how to build that strategy, how to build that approach to get to whole of organization digital transformation?
Yeah, I think first point that is important here, this is not about technology.
Right.
And this is not about the CIO starting a big change in the company. This is about a change that need to be managed by the top of the company, because they will need to change the way that it interact with the customer, the way that the call centers are placed in the company strategy.
Right.
And this is a big transformation. If there is a project of CIO, we as Ericsson, we don't recommend to go for this kind of approaches because they will fail. And I think this is the experience as well that Intel realized in the first attempts. And then this is the first question that where Ericsson is helping to understand how you can transform your company. And this is about trust. Is about you need to trust that if the project is not managed at the right level, then you will fail. And then Ericsson has the technology. This is the second one. The transformation that we did with this revenue manager suite is the one that will allow that, because the product is new, and if you compare with other products of our competitors, they are transforming by incremental development what they had as portfolio, and this is a big challenge for sure.
Fantastic insights. Thank you so much, Manel, for catching up with us on camera. I think the event itself, with the renaming to Digital Transformation World, has clearly stamped that need for the market to realize digital transformation is the key theme here. Based on what you've told us here, just what you're doing already with customers and partners, there's no doubt whatsoever that's got to take place. Consumers are screaming for this. You've now got the capabilities, an exciting future ahead of us. Thank you so much for making time to catch up with me. Really appreciate your insights and great to get to know you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
Well, thank you folks. Appreciate you joining us. With that, we'll wrap.